Hello, and thanks for listening or watching the Adulting is Easy podcast, where we make adulting easier by making money easier. This is your host, Lauren, and I do have one ask for you this week. Please go to the show notes and subscribe to my new YouTube channel. I'm joined today by Tyann Marcink Hammond, the queen of guest experience for TouchStay Digital Guidebooks, co-host of the Guestcast podcast, industry leader and consultant, co-creator of the VR Mastered Vacation Rental Bootcamp, author, speaker, and owner-manager of two vacation rental brands, Branson Family Retreats and Missouri Haus. Her passion for the vacation rental industry and guest experience truly makes her eyes sparkle. Tyann, thank you for joining me.
Thanks so much, Lauren. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, I'm so excited for this conversation. Before we get to that, do want to let everybody know that this episode is brought to you by Steadily Insurance. Steadily covers so many kinds of properties: single family, multifamily, vacant, restorations, apartment buildings, condos, even manufactured homes. And get this, Tyann, they also cover Airbnbs and VRBOs. So if you rent property to others, support this podcast by clicking the link in the show notes and getting a quote, please. Our goal for today is to make adulting easier for the listeners by discussing a personal finance topic, since managing money is a big part of adulting. So today, Tyann, you and I are going to talk about how to delight short-term rental guests and maximize revenue. As we kick off, can you sort of define for us what a short-term rental even is?
Yeah, I can tell you right away, it is not an Airbnb. That is not what a short term rental is. A lot of folks think, oh, yeah, you do Airbnb, you have Airbnbs. Like, no, I do not own Airbnbs. I do not own Verbos, none of that. I own vacation rentals and short term rentals. And what those are is short stays at a property. So, a better word, I think, would be nightly rentals. So, you count it by nights. And a long term rental are those that are obviously longer, and when you establish tenancy in a property. And every state has different laws of how long it is that you stay. So in Missouri, we hit 30 nights, you have tenants' rights. So we stay underneath that because they're short term or nightly rentals. And then when they're in a vacation rental, or a vacation destination, they are called vacation rentals versus a short term rental. So Airbnb, Vrbo, Booking.com, TripAdvisor, Hopper, all of those are marketing sites. That is not your property.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that excellent distinction. And we didn't even prep any of that. I just knew you would have a good answer for that. So, Tyann, what led you then to short-term rentals or nightly rentals?
Thank you for asking. It's one of those funny stories, right? So, way back when, we started when I was really young and we did the whole long-term rentals. We did the house hacking that is so popular and such a good thing to do, especially when you're young. And my parents were also sort of doing that, and they gotten into commercial buildings, and my aunt and uncle started doing that, but then they went down to Table Rock Lake and said, "Oh, let's try this thing where we buy this lake house and move all the furniture from our personal home into this lake house that is the largest house someone could rent at the lake at 4 bedrooms and 2 baths." And it went off crazy. So the next year, my parents said, "Hey, we're going to do this too." They began selling the commercial buildings, and they went even larger and went 5 bedrooms, and they got two of them. So now we have this competition in the family. So my aunt and uncle said, "Hey, we're going to build an 8 bedroom house." My parents said, "Well, we'll meet you with two 7 bedroom houses." And at that point, my husband and I were like, maybe we'll get into this also. So that's when I built my first 4 bedroom house in a dedicated vacation rental community down at Table Rock Lake. It was not as much of a yes, let's cash flow, do an investment type thing. It was hey, let's take a little bit higher risk investment and at least meet our costs and have a place for our family to go. And that's what a lot of vacation homes are for originally. Well, it went so well 2 years later. Barely got to stay in the place ourselves. So we went ahead and built a 5 bedroom house. Fast forward, that husband left me for another woman. In the divorce, I got 2 long-term rentals and my vacation rentals. Yeah. And I found out I'm not a good landlord at all. So when I found out the one long-term rental had drug dealers in it, and I said, I will not be a drug house. I immediately was able to get them out. Missouri's great with landlord laws, and they helped me get them out within days. It was
Wow.
such a seamless process. Yeah.
Wow. Wow.
Um, the tenant even asked if she could put me down as a referral, but that is another story for another time.
Being a
Uh,
long-term landlord is wild. It is so
it
wild.
is. I'm not good at it at all. I was like, I'm out.
I'm
So,
not, I'm not that great at it either. I'm really I try, but it's just so different. The types of people, it's just the
yes.
relationship is so different. It's so much obviously longer term. It's just sorry, I don't mean to interrupt your story. Please go on.
No, you're fine. You're fine. So, yeah, she had about $10,000 of damage in the house. And I went ahead, sunk my money into it, fixed the house up, and decided, this town does not have a short term rental at all. It's not a vacation destination. So, yes, short term rental would be the correct term. Put another 2 grand into it to see if I could attract the business folks that come in because we had the state's first green industrial park. And if you wanted to stay at a nice place in the area, you're going at least 20 minutes away, if not 45 minutes away. So I set that up and decided, I'm going to also try out this dog friendly thing also, which ended up being the absolute best decision because Purina, you know the name Purina, right? Dog food, cat food.
Mm.
Well, their event center is literally 10 minutes away. So I found out, hey, they run dog shows almost year round and schedule these things 5 years out in advance. So immediately folks are contacting and starting to book, 2 years in advance. We have some people try to do 3 years in advance. But as soon as their kennel clubs say these are our dates, we're getting phone calls and emails. So at that point, I then decided to buy a bank. And it's I know you love it, right? So 1902 bank building with the original vaults inside it. I really, really wanted one of the vaults to be a bedroom, but safety, egress, that was kind of an
Right.
issue. So
Yeah.
scratch that off. My next thought was, ooh, I'm going to make a vault into a bathroom, a shower. Wouldn't that be an amazing shower to
That'd
be
be
in a
so
vault?
cool. Yep.
Yeah, but, the bottom of the vault is like 4 feet of concrete, so that
Yeah.
quite didn't work well for drainage issues, so I had to scratch that one off. So I decided the third thing would be is one of the vaults you could legally launder inside a vault and got everything measured out. The washer dryer would fit perfectly in there. So my contractor, he had to get a 30-inch drill bit to go through these walls. It was incredible. Uh, didn't know what would happen if it even worked, but it definitely worked. And when the Lowe's guys came to deliver my washer and dryer, the look on their face was priceless when I said where I wanted them. But yeah, so that started the second brand of properties. And then I decided, my second long-term rental and the little tiny short-term rental that I had in town just wasn't making enough money. So I sold it 1031 into a lot for my big house, 10 bedrooms. And now with that house, I retired my second husband basically because we net now more than what his 9 to 5 job was making him. And it's
That's
just
so
snowballed.
amazing. So even the bank, that's in a vacation destination or that's still business travel?
Yes and no. So we get a little
Okay.
bit of business travel, but it's in a little tiny town of 1,100 people. There's absolutely zero lodging. And big flood of 1993, when the Missouri River, Mississippi River just went crazy, the town was actually flooded. So I'm in a very high risk floodplain as well. Um,
Mhm.
Complete, very, very downtrodden, rundown town when I came in. Now it's looking completely different. So lots of rehab going on. It's amazing to see the town perk up because they looked at me. They're like, "What are you doing? Why would anyone even come to this town?"
Yeah.
And so that's when I said, "Hey guys, you you're in a gem of a place. This is where I grew up. So I'm sixth generation to the area. And
Wow.
this town sits on the Katy Trail, which is the longest rails to trails in the country at 237 miles. So
Wow.
you have almost 100,000 people coming down the trail. And Marthasville is the exact first or last night stop when you do the whole trail through. So you've got all these visitors coming through. Then you've got wine country. So a little known fact is the Augusta Valley, which is just 11 miles down the road, is the first dedicated wine country in the entire United States. Napa Valley was number 2. So we've got wine country, we've got wedding venues, we got family reunions. We're in an area where a small wedding is 300 people.
Wow.
So lots of beds are needed. Yeah, lots of beds are needed for the folks. So it's just this little gem, and starting at the lake, my story that I started 15 years ago to these places in Marthasville. My thing is I try to look where no one else is looking, really, per se. That these little hidden gems, and you get in low. Happy to go into the numbers with the bank as well, because even that one, I've shocked myself of how little I was able to get it for, because no one wanted it. And I was
Mhm.
able to look and see the potential for it.
Yeah, I love your approach to this. When I found out you were in Missouri, I at first when I found you on Twitter, I was like just seeing pictures and I was like, wow, this is Missouri. That's awesome. My philosophy also, although I am in Florida, which is, vacation destination, I am in these kind of off market vacation areas, right? A little bit more niche, certainly driving, regional, still for kind of beaches in the Florida vibe, not quite for the wedding vibe and think, not family reunions and stuff like that. But I think as the large markets get saturated, I think more and more investors should look to these areas, these gems, these diamonds in the rough, if we're gonna go with a maybe an Aladdin reference there. I was gonna ask you how long you've been doing this, so I'm glad you said 15 years. And just so people know, that's pre Airbnb, right? Like this stuff
Yep, that
existed
is.
before that. So you've seen a lot in
Yeah,
this space.
I have. Oh gosh, I've gone through so many different changes. Like, Vrbo, yeah, there's a guest service fee that people pay. Guess what? 15 years ago, not only
Yep.
was there no guest service fee, there was no pay per booking. It was a annual subscription you paid, plus you got to pay more to get higher in the rankings, or you had to pay more to get more photos. So I recall paying $1,600 per listing, and then when they dropped that down to $4.99 for an annual subscription, I'm like, oh my gosh, I have more marketing money to go elsewhere, and was able to start doing other things. I felt like they cut things, but they also added the guest service fee, and there's some
Sure.
other things. And oh gosh, so much drama in the industry that a lot of folks who've just now come in have no clue about. But yeah, it's there. It's fun. It's addicting.
Yeah, so go ahead and dive into numbers, if you will, on the bank.
Oh, sure. So the bank was listed at oh gosh, $135,000.
Wow.
Yeah. And not only was it wasn't just the bank either. It was the little house next door to it too. And it was for sale, gosh, a solid 9 months before I was even aware of it.
Wow.
Um, Again, being in a little town, no, nobody even had much of no idea what you could be done with it, because, so first it was the Marthasville Bank. I have the original document signing, commissioned it to be the bank. It's really cool. So after that, I found out it was actually the post office for the town. And then in like
Hmm.
1950, when they built the current post office building, it shut down there, and it sat for a long time. The upstairs was different offices and things like that. And then in the 80s, Doc bought it. So Doc was a dentist, and
Hmm.
he took extremely good care of the place. But the
Aw.
thing is when we came in and checked it out, because I bought it from Doc after he retired, there was so much copper tubing under copper pipes underneath, because it
Yeah.
had all the different sinks and everything. So, you walk in and it's like, oh, it's a dental office. What are you going to do with a dental office? And
Right.
even my realtor looked at me like, she's like, what are you going to do with this place? How is that going to work? Are you sure you're not wasting your money? But what happened is the gal who owns the house behind the property, which funnily enough is my doppelganger, which is so funny. But yeah, so she's a three generation business owner there of one of the largest caramel apple companies in the country called the Happy Apples. And her house behind there is her migrant worker house. And so she saw Doc's places come up for sale next door, and she knew obviously what I did from our business women's group. And she said, Tyann, I think you might be interested in this place. I know you're looking for something to buy. Come take a look. It's like, okay. So I walk in and I'm like, oh my gosh, yes. Original tin ceilings on the top,
Love it.
the original staircase and floors upstairs. The main level that was flooring had to be was new in 95 after the flood. But otherwise, oh gosh, just beautiful. And it just needs to be cleaned. That's it. I mean, we didn't have to do a whole lot. Obviously, when you go look at the pictures, we put in a whole kitchen, we put in another bathroom. We use the original bathroom with the pull chain toilet as well. That's in there. But the way I purchased this was, remember those two vacation rentals I had from way back in 2007, 2009? By now, there's equity in them.
Right.
So call my banker up and I said, hey, I know I've got equity. I would like a line of credit based on this equity. And so he goes, yeah, totally. That's fine. And so it was 225, got my line of credit. And so I put a contract on the bank for cash because I'm just going to pull it from my line of credit, got the bank and the little house next door, and then started the renovations immediately. So if you go to my website, there's actually a video of me going to the property directly from closing. So talking about, okay, this is what we're going to do. This is what the town looks like, and seeing it as the dentist office minus, some of the dental stuff that he had taken out. But I
So
saw
what's the website? Let's tell people right now, just in case.
Missouri.
Hey,
Yeah.
nobody look this up if you're driving, okay? But if you're not, if you're sitting at your computer, sorry, go ahead, Diane.
Yeah. It's MissouriHaus.com, and Haus is the German spelling. So Haus. And
Got
you
it.
spell it Missouri. So MissouriHaus.com.
Perfect.
And then
Cool.
if you want to go directly to the bank page, it's / bank, I believe, or bank
Okay.
house, something like that.
I'll
But
put
it's
it.
on there.
I'll put it. I'll find it and I'll put it in the
Yeah.
notes.
Yeah. So yeah, rehab work on the bank and the little house, which we completely gutted. Had to have all new everything inside it. It was some type of call center or something at that point. One time it was residential, but we gutted it. One bedroom, over 800 square feet, nice and spacious. Made
Wow.
sure to make both wheelchair accessible. That's
Nice.
one of the things is I want to make sure everybody can access our vacation rentals. So both these properties, wheelchair accessible, grab bars, everything, giant showers, knowing who is coming along to these properties. I'm a big shower person. And I'm like, biggest showers possible, guys. This is what we're doing. And so yeah, that all in, I think I spent like 80,000. So definitely plenty of money with the line of credit. Got those finished. Before then, I got my quotes for flood insurance. Well,
Yeah.
flood
Mm-hmm.
insurance, yeah, high risk, FEMA. They quoted me $6,000 per property per year, which I know
Yeah.
Florida, you're like, oh, whatever, that's not a lot. But in Missouri,
No,
that
that's a lot.
is
No, that's a lot here too.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Especially when we're talking like this little house, little one bedroom house. I'm like, shoot, I can't do
I
that.
know. No.
So what I decided to do on the little house is not to flood insure it,
Yep.
and instead pocket that money into a savings account in case something happens, because it's small and there's not a whole lot that would have to be done if it were to flood type thing.
Yep.
And it's a
Yep.
100-year floodplain. So I'm like,
Yes.
okay, that's one risk I'm taking. The bank, I went ahead and got a survey done. So when you are in a flood zone and there's, I'm in high risk, I have to have flood insurance for the bank to give me any money because my plan was to get a commercial loan and then pull my money back out and pay off my line of credit so then I can repeat the process over again. So literally buying and setting up these houses without any cash from my pocket whatsoever. So survey says, yeah, your foundation is actually higher, your floor is higher, you're good. Cut the
Yep.
FEMA price in half, $3,000. Awesome.
Good. Perfect.
Um, and then I found out a couple years later there's private insurance. So we're now under
Yes.
$1,000 a year.
Yeah. I was
Yep.
gonna
Awesome.
say
So
we
always check for that.
yeah, we do a lot of private insurance down here for sure because it is about half as much. Absolutely.
Yeah. So one adulting tip there, always check for private insurance. I had no idea about that until just a
Yeah.
year ago. So that was awesome. So
Check
yeah.
steadily. Check steadily insurance. Plug for the sponsor.
Oh, there you
But yeah,
go.
good point. Always shop your insurance around, right? Don't think that
Yes.
your first quote is the only quote and things like that. So just so this is incredible. Okay, did you pay 135 then? Was that I knew you said it was listed for that. Is that what you paid?
No, I think I actually paid like 130-ish. I
Okay.
negotiated a
Yes.
little bit down. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So 130, you get this bank, you get this house, you got the $225,000 line of credit from these other properties, paid cash for them, were able to renovate them for $80,000. You don't insure the one for the flood, which means you're going to have to basically keep owning that for cash, right? But you insure the bank, and then that means you can then get a loan on that and then keep rinsing and repeating your money. Is that a kind of a good summary of
Yes.
where we're at? Okay, cool.
Absolutely.
Now, the
So
fun part,
hold on, there's
revenue,
one
right?
more thing.
Okay, okay, okay.
One more tip.
Okay.
So the other thing is with a short-term rental, vacation rental, you can also ask for a commercial appraisal rather than a residential appraisal. So yes, it costs 3 times as much, but you get a higher appraisal number. So I asked for a commercial appraisal on the bank and it came in higher. So appraising at $250,000 just for the one property. And then I was able to get a mortgage of, I think, I don't know if I asked for 70 or 80%, but I had some leeway there to ask for the amount of money I wanted. And so, yes, then I paid off my line of credit and able to then rinse and repeat with something else while owning one house free and clear. And I can add to my line of credit, my equity and bump that up so I have more cash to play with. And then the bank. So, yeah.
Amazing. So what would the payment then be on that?
I'm at 1,500 a month, all
Okay.
in
Okay.
property taxes, insurance, everything.
Okay. Amazing. Okay. So 1,500 a month. And what is the average daily rate? What's the occupancy there?
So occupancy, gosh, I'll have to actually run my reports there, but off the top of my head, we generally shoot for about 50% or so.
Okay.
We are in a seasonal market. During the winter, we don't expect anyone to come. During the summer, and it's a lot, more people come, but it's a spring and fall in this area that are the best. And it's mainly weekends. So it's, low occupancy percentage, but we do have the higher rates. So like on the weekends in October, we might book out for 900 a night for the full bank. The other cool thing about the bank is that I can lock off the first floor from the top floor. So the main level has 1 bedroom, 1.5 bathrooms, plus your kitchen, living, dining, and then you can lock off the stairs that go upstairs for the other 3 bedrooms and bathroom. So then, if the whole bank doesn't rent within 30 days of arrival, I open up what we call the president's office, and so then we'll get that booked at a lower rate. So bank low rate, we're talking, I think 175 a night.
Okay.
And then the president's office is anywhere from 120 a night to 200 a night, depending upon season and date.
So what's the top line number for the whole year then?
So for my gross,
Mm-hmm.
let me just run a report and I'll let you know. And while I'm looking that up, I will tell you last year was incredible.
Yeah.
And I will tell you that number. And this year it has tanked.
Yeah.
So, just keep in mind when you look at people's numbers too that, oh gosh, 2021 was absolutely wonderful. So, the bank this year so far, we're looking at 106 nights.
Okay.
And 139 nights for the Katie House. Total, Katie's only running 29,000 this year, and the bank is only running 37,000 this year
Okay.
so far. Now, last year, the bank was 190 nights with a total of 79,000.
Okay.
And the Katie House hit 210 nights for 42,000.
Nice. Okay.
With all that extra money, and since we're not doing so well this year, we're actually taking that and reinvesting it into the properties. So next week, there's going to be a giant concrete pad put in. We've got a shed, and it's going to have e-bikes, and then we're going to be renting the e-bikes out, and then we also putting hot tubs in for both places. So it's one of those things where, yeah, this year we are covering expenses. We're not making a ton of money, but I firmly believe you should always be upping the amenities at your property and always putting back in. Besides the fact we had to get a new roof this year on one of the places,
Yeah.
and that hurt.
Yeah. Yeah. We're doing the same thing in some of our places. It sounds like 2021 was kind of a record year. That was the first year we launched. We launched in January 2021. We've launched 3 units in 2022. So we don't have a great baseline from before that. But we are this year, like we put in mini splits and did the roof on one of our places. So that does kind of torpedo it because I think it grosses like 35 for the year. So
Mm-hmm.
that really hurts it. But so how much, just curious, how much of your revenue about falls to the bottom line? I think for us, it's like 25%, I want to say, after kind of everything.
I think generally we run about 30 to 40%.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, mine
For our
includes
net.
my net includes where I live since I rotate around as things book. So,
Oh,
um
yeah, totally. Yeah,
yeah.
I don't do that. No, no, no one in my personal space. Mm-mm. Sorry, I can't do
Yeah.
that.
Well, nobody's ever up here. If you're looking on YouTube, you get to see my office. Nobody's ever up here. This is always locked. So thank you so much for going into details on those numbers. That's awesome. People are always asking me about that. So I love to have kind of a case study there. And something that you talk about a lot, Tyann, is wowing your guests, repeat guests, getting direct bookings. How do you do that? How are you wowing people? You mentioned obviously you're adding some amenities, but how else?
So, a big thing with us is our communication. To me, in life, communication is key. I mean, you communicate the negatives, you communicate the positives, you communicate the wow factors. We look at who is coming, why they're coming, and then we hone in on that. So, for instance, the Banking Katie House, we're in wine country. So, therefore, our guests arrive to a local bottle of wine and local coffee and a note on why we're giving them these gifts, communicating all of that. In addition, in the run up to their stay, so between booking and arrival, we also communicate, we drip communications. So this is text, this is email, possibly even a phone call, but we do this several times. My Missouri House brand is not as many touches because it's shorter booking windows, but in our Table Rock Lake brand, we actually touch the guests 20 times between booking and arrival. That's a fairly large booking window. We average about 3 months out, but we get a lot of 1 to 2 year bookings away from arrival. So we touch them several times, and there's a lot of information people are looking for. So we make sure we drip it versus giving one entire document that gets lost in their email, or they just look at like too long, didn't read, TLDR, I don't care. And then they never look at any of your information. So that's why we totally subscribe to the tell them once, tell them twice, tell them a third time, but tell them 10 times in all different ways, because you don't know how your guests like to communicate. So we use their communication channels they're used to, but in a different way.
I love that you use text. That's totally awesome. So I do want to ask, I think a lot of people that are listening to this podcast have been doing research on real estate investing. Maybe they've listened to other podcasts, read books, blogs, things like that. What advice do you have for people that are thinking about getting into real estate but haven't quite pulled that trigger yet?
Ooh, um, don't go into what is it? Perilous analysis. I can't say that. Don't be
Analysis
paralyzed by
paralysis.
paralysis. Yes, analysis paralysis. You can read, you can listen, you can watch all this information and absorb it, but until you actually do something, you're not learning enough. You have got to do it, even if you fail. You don't want to count your failures; you count your lessons because every single thing you do is a lesson. So take a step. Maybe you'll get a little bit of advice. Maybe you can even get a mentor. That could be someone you know or someone that you're paying online. But don't freeze for too long. You're going to have to take a step eventually. And everybody's different in their risk tolerance as well. So just be aware of what your risk tolerance is. Some people are high risk takers, some people are low risk takers. And so that means you might be looking close to where you are, or you might be going to another state and buying something sight unseen. Just totally depends. And it depends upon how much money you have and how much time you have. Remember, you pay for everything with either time or money. You've got to choose which one you're going to pay with.
I love that. Count your lessons, don't count your failures. Great, great advice, Tyann. Is there anything else you want to add before we wrap up?
So one of the tools that I use is Touch Day Digital Guidebooks. Have to mention them, absolutely, because they are a huge communication tool, and I have all of my tools, my complete tech stack for managing and investing at my website. So tyannmarcink.com/tools, and there you'll find my referral links to everything as well as education. And then also love to see you guys over at Cashflow University. Lauren and I are both over there teaching and sharing as well. I think that's about it. Follow me on my socials at Tyann Marcink, wherever you are: Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook. I'm everywhere. Yeah.
All right. So I will put all of that in the show notes as well. And guys, absolutely Cashflow University. There's 20 something experts in there teaching you different ways to generate cash flow. Tyann and I are the short term rental teachers there. You can follow me on Twitter at Adulting is Easy. Again, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. I'll put the link in the show notes. I'm also on Facebook. You can email me at realadultingiseasy.com. If you have an in with a different personal finance podcast that would like to hear about short term rentals, I would love to be a guest. Please email me and let me know. Thanks again for listening, everybody. Hopefully, Tyann and I have made adulting a little easier for you.